they'd be moving the limber with horses, which we don't have today. Now the other men have to reverse the gun, turn it around, and attach it to the limber.
By hands to the front.
So you see the gun can actually be loaded and fired and limbered up and moved around pretty quickly. This gun weighs about a ton. The limber's going to weigh another about a quarter of a ton with a full chest of ammunition. So it's quite a bit of equipment to move around. With 6 horses, they can do it very, very easily. I told you that the guns you're looking at are Napoleons. The technical designation of these guns is the Model 1857 12-pound light gun howitzer. That's a mouthful. They were called Napoleon for short because the prototype had been developed in France in the 1850s by Louis Napoleon, or Napoleon III, the nephew of the great Napoleon, who among other things was first and foremost an artillery officer. And he developed the lightest possible 12-pound gun that there could be, keeping its barrel weight to 1,200 pounds. Now when we say it's a 12-pound gun, that means it fires a 12-pound projectile. Let me show you one. This is a piece of 12-pound solid shot. It's a round iron ball. It's attached to a wooden block called a sabot. If you look carefully, you can see there's a groove around the base of the sabot. To this would be attached a flannel powder sack that would hold about 2 1/4 pounds of powder. That's what detonates this thing. The solid shot has a maximum range of about 1,600 yards for this gun. Solid shot is good for battering things, battering down enemy fortifications. It's good for beating up the other guy's cannon. If you can hit a wheel or the barrel or something, you can disable his gun. And it's also an anti-personnel weapon. Experienced gunners learned how to skip these things across the ground into the ranks of the enemy troops. You may know that Civil War infantry fought shoulder to shoulder in double ranks, sort of like you all are arrayed here. Experienced gunners like to get an enfilading angle of fire, that is, shooting into this from a side angle, and they can take men out by the dozens, just like a bowling ball that goes in from an angle, takes pins out. At slightly shorter ranges, they had other options. They had different kinds of exploding shells. This is an example of a shell. It's a hollow cannonball. It would be filled with gunpowder. If you look carefully on the front, you see a copper aperture. This would take a fuse, either a paper or a wooden fuse. And the fuse would burn as the projectile flew through the air. The idea being to cut the fuse so that the projectile would explode about the time it reached the objective, and it would burst into a bunch of jagged pieces of cast iron, which, if they hit you, would inflict pretty grievous damage. The detachments are going to march on now to start the demonstration. While they're coming up, let me show you some more types of ammunition they could have used. They had another explosive projectile called case shot, or shrapnel, after the inventor, an Englishman named Henry Shrapnel. This is a cutaway piece of case shot. It too is a hollow cannonball and has a core of gunpowder in it, but surrounding that gunpowder is musket balls. And again, they could set the fuse. The idea is to get this to blow up, oh, maybe 50 yards shy of the target, so that those balls can spread out like a delayed action shotgun blast, case shot or shrapnel. Excuse that. At close ranges against massed infantry formations or cavalry, they had something called canister. This is a fixed round of canister for the 12-pounder. It's filled with iron balls packed in sawdust. fired this, the canister broke open and the balls came flying out. Here's one of those balls. 27 of these will come flying out at supersonic speed, and they get mow men down by the dozens and scores.